water camp. So there was happy ending to it. My mother, she said all along, don't worry, we will survive, we will survive. Because we never knew from one day to another what will happen. When the turn will come, when we will die. Well, it is 15th of April, 1945. Very quiet in the camp, no guards around. Nobody dares to go out of the camp, but we knew that something is happening until suddenly we heard this rumbling.
Most of the people seemed to be listless beyond hope and astonishment. What misery to live amongst such unmentionable filth. They seemed accustomed to the smell and the horror. They had seen all there was to see.
When these cars were coming in, they shouted, "You are liberated." But we didn't even know what the word liberated meant. We only knew that the Germans are gone and the British are here, that we are free.
Today is the 24th of April, 1945. My name is Conor Illingworth and I live at Cheshire. The things I have committed, well, nobody would think they were human at all. We actually know now what has been going on in these camps. I know personally what I am fighting for.
Among the British soldiers who freed us was Father Mick Morrison, Bill Morrison's uncle. He was one of the first to pray for the soul of our dead. Kramer was arrested. He was tried by the British Army, and not far from here, he was executed with 12 other SS. The British took this picture, and there you can see my brother Mickey. All the children were running, and of course they were all along the barbed wire. There somewhere we think it's myself, so we have something to remember. This is the moment that we were liberated. After the liberation, my aunt, Margot, got typhoid. She was in a terrible state with high fever. And we come here after what they called human laundry. We were washed, disinfected. My aunt wouldn't eat anything, but she had a terrible craving for cigarettes. She was hallucinating, she was talking rubbish, nonsense. I was starving, but they used to bring us only tiny little bit of food, so I used to go to the nurses and they used to bring me in the morning bread with ham and bacon, and you know, we're supposed to eat kosher, but I didn't care, I was so hungry. And my aunt was all the time asking me for cigarettes. And I begged the nurses for cigarettes, and I used to come to my aunt and give her half a cigarette and said, I give it to you, but you must first eat. And I forced her, I showed her I have the cigarette in my hand. And she ate because she wanted the cigarette. And I gave her the cigarette. After a while, my aunt got better and she survived. And until her death, every time when we were with friends or anybody come to visit my aunt and I would walk to the room, she used to say, this is the man that saved my life. All over liberated Europe in the spring 1945, Jews and other persecuted people were coming out of their hiding places and began to pick up the pieces of their life. In Czechoslovakia, among those who came up for air were my cousin Bandy and Uri. 18 Jews now tasted freedom after months in a bunker. The war they emerged to was unrecognizable.
Letelo tam niekoľko lietadiel, nevedeli sme, kedy prídu, jak prídu, lebo tam tie informácie, dole informácie boli 0 bodov.
Yeah.
Prišla pani Vavrová, zakričala, že sme slobodní, my sme vyšli von, bledí, plakali sme a nevedeli sme, čo sa deje. No boli sme slobodní.
Jaký bol dátum? Ktorého dátum?
4. apríla 1945. To je môj sviatok a ja som ho dlho oslavoval. Dlho som sa opíjal. 4. keď prišlo apríla, moja žena dosvedčí, hneď bol alkohol a to bola moja oslava.
3 months after our liberation, my mother, Mickey, and I made a long journey home from Belsen to Merašice. The village and ourselves would never be the same again. It was July 1945 when we returned from concentration camp. It was the first time that we met my father, because we never knew if he's alive, and he never knew that if we were alive. Only a couple of weeks before we arrived, he found out about us, and of course we found out that my father is alive as well. We arrived here, the house was painted and prepared, food on the table, and we were home again. We never talked about it. We never talked about our past. Today I regret that we never sat and recollected what we went through. This is where we continue to live up to 1949, when we felt still that we were not welcomed, and we emigrated to Israel.
Sumach libi vayugel kevoidi Av besori yishkoin luvetach Ki loi sahazoim nafshi li shoil Loi sitei chasitchu Virois shuchas Toidi yeini oirach chayim Soivas muchois espunechu Nehimois biminchu
6 million Jews died. Within that number, 35 members of my family perished. They were young people. I knew them as a child. They were engineers, doctors, clerics, mothers, children, all looked to new life, good life, until one day their life was snuffed out. As a child, I couldn't understand when I came home from concentration camp why this happened. And now, still I can't understand. Why? Mickey, my brother, my cousin Chava and myself, we built our life from the ashes. My brother is a successful businessman. Chava built her life. We have all beautiful families, children, grandchildren. We got a chance, but our uncles, aunts, they never got the chance.
Dear Tommy, my grandfather joined the British Army when he was just 16 years old. After listening to you today, it made me very proud to think that my grandfather helped to save men like you and your family. Unfortunately though, I never met him. Yours sincerely, Emer Lawler.
Your story is one I'll tell my kids and grandkids in the future, in the hopes a horrible thing like World War II will never ever happen again.
I'd like to thank you a lot for sharing your experience of the Holocaust with us. I'd like to also say that I'm very sorry for the things you had to go through. I'd say it was very hard to share your memories with us.
I appreciate it must have been a very difficult thing to do, and I admire your courage.
Thank you again, Tommy, for telling us your story. It is one I hope to share with my children and grandchildren in years to come.
For 55 years, I did not talk about it. I couldn't talk about it. And now I'm fulfilling a mission that I speak in lecturing school. It's something that I owe to the victims, that their memory is not forgotten. Definitely, it's a closure that I made with this trip. It's something that I had to do. I'm glad I did it.